Hey everyone, it is your favorite 25-year-old financial guru here. And if you're like most people, you've probably been bombarded with articles and gurus telling you to learn this skill or that skill, toe future, proof your career, blah blah blah, the future of work. Let me tell you something. Most of that advice is pure garbage. Seriously, it is like telling someone in 2010 to invest in Blockbuster stock. Yeah, it sounds good on paper, but the world moves fast. And if you're not paying attention, you'll be left in the dust. Many people ask me what the secret to making big money is. I tell them the truth. But nobody believes me. It is often about what you don't do, just as much as what you do, and right now, there are certain skills that are becoming obsolete faster than you can say, I take over. So let's talk about it, shall we? Let's rip off the band, aid and expose the ugly truth about skills you should absolutely avoid learning, or at the very least, stop investing heavily in. If you want to have a fighting chance in the future, first up, anything that can be easily automated. I'm talking about repetitive tasks, data entry, basic customer service, assembly line work, even some forms of content creation. Look, I get it. It is easy to get comfortable in a job where you do the same thing every day. It feels secure, right? Wrong. That is the most insecure job you can have, because every unnecessary consumption is an employee you personally fire who helps you make money. And if your job can be summarized in a simple algorithm or a set of instructions, an AI is already being trained to do it better, faster, and cheaper than you ever could. Think about it. We're talking about sacrificing your life, 3,000 hours a year, just to perform tasks that a machine could handle in 5 minutes. Your life is worth more than that, my friend. Much more, my buddy. Let's call him Dave. He spent 5 years in college, got a degree in accounting, never made a mistake. He thought he was irreplaceable. Then one day, his company implemented new accounting software. Suddenly, 90% of his job was automated. He was out of a job. Just like that, 10 years of his life gone because he refused to see the writing on the wall. He clung to the comfort of the familiar instead of adapting. So, what is the solution? Don't just automate your job, automate yourself. Learn skills that are uniquely human, things that require critical thinking, creativity, emotional intelligence, problem solving. These are the skills that AI struggles with, and will continue to struggle with for a long, long time. Next, to anything that relies purely on memorization. Seriously, with the internet at our fingertips, and AI models that can access and process information in milliseconds, being a walking encyclopedia is no longer a valuable skill. It is about applying information, not just recalling it, how to synthesize it, how to use it to solve complex problems. That is where the real value lies. I see so many young people spending countless hours memorizing facts and figures for exams, and then they graduate and realize that 20% of what they learned is already outdated, and the other 80% can be found with a quick Google search. What a colossal waste of time. Your brain is a supercomputer. Don't turn it into a glorified hard drive. Use it to think, to innovate, to connect dots that others can't see. My cousin Sarah, she was brilliant in school, straight A's, could recite historical dates and scientific formulas like a robot. But when it came to real-world problems, she struggled. She couldn't connect the theoretical knowledge to practical applications. She was fantastic at recall, but terrible at reasoning. And in today's job market, reasoning trumps recall every single time. So, stop trying to be a human database. Start being a human problem solver. Third, specialized skills that are easily commoditized. This is a tricky one, because specialization can be good, but only if that specialization is in something truly unique and difficult to replicate. If your specialized skill can be learned by 100 other people in a 3-month boot camp, then guess what? You are a commodity, and commodities compete on price, which means your wages will be driven down. Think about graphic design or basic web development. 5 years ago, these were highly sought after skills. Now, with tools like Canva and Squarespace, and AI-powered website builders, anyone can create decent graphics or a simple website. The demand for basic-level graphic designers or web developers is plummeting, and those who are still in the game are fighting tooth and nail for pennies. It is a race to the bottom, and you don't want to be in that race. Instead, focus on developing unique combinations of skills. Become a graphic designer who also understands marketing psychology, or a web developer who can also strategize on SEO and user experience. That is how you make yourself indispensable. That is how you command higher wages. You stack skills, you become a T-shaped professional. Deep in one area, broad in many others. Fourth, any skill that prevents you from learning new things. This might sound counterintuitive, but hear me out. The biggest threat to your career isn't automation or AI. It is your own resistance to change. It is the mindset that says, I've learned enough, I'm good. That is the kiss of death in the 21st century. The world is evolving at an unprecedented pace, and if you're not continuously learning, continuously adapting, you're falling behind. I've seen so many people, especially those who've been in the same industry for 20 or 30 years, they become complacent. They refuse to learn new software, new methodologies, new ways of thinking, and then they wonder why they're struggling, why younger, more adaptable people are leapfrogging them. It is because they've built a wall around their knowledge instead of a bridge. So, what is the antidote? Cultivate a growth mindset, embrace lifelong learning, be curious, be experimental, treat every new challenge as an opportunity to expand your skill set, because the only constant in life is change, and the only skill that truly future-proofs you is the ability to learn and unlearn. Remember this every time you choose comfort over growth. You're choosing stagnation. And stagnation is the fastest way to career suicide. So to wrap it all up, the future of work isn't about avoiding technology. It is about embracing it and understanding how to work with it, not against it. It is about doubling down on what makes us uniquely human and letting the machines handle the rest. Don't be the person who gets left behind because you were too stubborn or too comfortable to adapt. Be smart, be strategic. Invest in yourself, not in skills that are already on their way out. Let's dive a bit deeper into some specific traps. Own skill that many people still cling to is basic foreign language proficiency. Now, don't get me wrong, learning a new language is a fantastic personal endeavor. It opens up cultures, broadens your horizons, but as a career-critical skill for many industries, it is rapidly diminishing in value with real-time translation tools and AI-powered language models. The need for human translators in many basic business contexts is, well, it is just not there anymore. I had a friend, Maria. She spent years mastering Mandarin, thinking it would be her ticket to a lucrative international business career. She was fluent, could negotiate deals, read complex documents. She was a rock star. But then along came these sophisticated translation apps, and companies realized they could hire a native speaker, at a fraction of the cost, and use AI for the translation, or even have their English-speaking staff use real-time translation during meetings. Maria found herself competing with technology, and the technology was winning. Fast. Now, if you're a highly specialized interpreter working in sensitive diplomatic situations or translating complex legal texts where nuance is everything, sure, your skill still holds immense value, but for the average business person who just needs to communicate across borders, it is becoming less of a necessity and more of a nice-to-have. So invest your time in something that AI can't easily replicate, like understanding cultural nuances or building genuine human connections, because a machine can translate words, but it can't build trust not yet anyway. Another skill set that is dangerously close to the chopping block is anything that falls under the umbrella of manual data analysis. Think about it, crunching numbers by hand, creating pivot tables in Excel for hours on end, generating routine reports. These tasks are prime candidates for automation. Data science, as a field, is booming, but the demand is for people who can interpret data, who can ask the right questions, who can derive actionable insights, not for people who can just meticulously clean and organize it. My old boss, Mr. Henderson, he was a wizard with spreadsheets, could make Excel sing and dance. He spent decades perfecting his formulas, his macros. He was the go-to guy for any data-related task. But then, our company started adopting advanced business intelligence tools and machine learning algorithms. Suddenly, the reports that took Mr. Henderson 2 days to compile were being generated in 2 minutes, with far more sophisticated visualizations and predictive analytics. He felt threatened. He resisted. He grumbled about fancy newfangled technology. And guess what happened? He became irrelevant, because he was focused on the how, the manual process, instead of the why, the insight, the strategic value. So, if you're still spending the majority of your time manipulating data, instead of analyzing it, it is time to shift your focus. Learn about data visualization, statistical modeling, machine learning concepts, because the value isn't in the data itself. It is in what you can do with that data. It is in the story you can tell, the decisions you can inform. That is the human element that machines can't yet replicate. And here is a big one. Any job that primarily involves being a middleman or gatekeeper. Think about traditional administrative assistants, travel agents, even some entry-level recruiters. Their roles often involve coordinating information, scheduling, booking, and generally being the conduit between two or more parties. But with smart calendars, AI-powered scheduling tools, automated travel booking platforms, and LinkedIn's sophisticated algorithms, these intermediary functions are being streamlined or completely absorbed by technology. My friend, Jessica, she was a fantastic executive assistant for years. Super organized, knew everyone, could juggle 5 schedules at once. She was indispensable. Or so she thought. Then her executive got a new AI assistant, a fancy software that managed his calendar, booked his flights, filtered his emails, and even drafted basic responses. Jessica's role slowly but surely began to shrink. Her human touch, while appreciated, was no longer deemed essential for the day-to-day operations. She eventually had to reinvent herself, focusing on higher-level strategic support, things like project management and team leadership, skills that required human judgment and interpersonal finesse. So if your job largely consists of being a glorified information relay or a scheduler, it is time to upgrade your game. Think about how you can add value beyond just connecting dots. How can you become a strategist, a problem solver, a creator, instead of just a coordinator? Because if your primary function is to facilitate, there is a good chance technology will soon be facilitating you right out of a job. Finally, and this one's a bit controversial, avoid becoming overly specialized in niche technologies with short shelf lives. This might seem to contradict my earlier point about specialization, but there is a crucial difference. I'm talking about tools or platforms that are hyper-specific, trendy, and could be replaced by the next big thing in a year or two. Think about mastering a very obscure content management system, or becoming an absolute guru in a particular proprietary marketing automation tool that only one company uses. Yes, you might be the expert in that specific thing, but what happens when that company or that technology goes away? You're left with a very deep but very narrow skill set that might not be transferable. I knew a guy, Mark. He was a legend in a very niche programming language, COBOL. He made a fortune maintaining legacy systems for banks. He was irreplaceable for a while, but then those systems started to get replaced, modernized, and suddenly his unique and highly specialized skill became, well, obsolete. He had to completely retrain himself, which at 55 was a tough uphill battle. The lesson here is to differentiate between foundational skills and ephemeral tools. Learning the principles of programming, or the fundamentals of marketing, or the theories of design. These are foundational. They transcend specific technologies. They give you the flexibility to adapt to new tools and new platforms. So by all means, learn new tools, but don't let your entire career identity be tied to one. Fad technology. Always focus on the underlying concepts, the evergreen principles, because those are what will truly future-proof your career. They are the bedrock upon which you can build and rebuild your skill sets over and over again, without starting from scratch. So, let's bring it all home. The future of work isn't about avoiding technology. It is about understanding it and leveraging it to elevate your uniquely human capabilities. It is about being strategic with your time and your energy, recognizing that every skill you choose to invest in has an opportunity cost. Don't waste your precious life, your 3,000 hours a year, learning things that a machine can do better